Well, greetings, Mayor, Commissioners. Can y'all hear us okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we'll get right into it. So tonight's virtual workshop, as we mentioned a few weeks ago when we held the one and got great feedback on the Martin Theater, this would be on all of those outstanding unsolicited proposals and also the properties that the city has and kind of our desire to move forward. Obviously, right on camera, you see myself for the public's benefit and Assistant City Manager Jared Jones and Sean Self, Director of Logistics, which is over all of the purchasing. And all right, Mr. Mayor, are we excited? All right. Yeah. Oh, we must be on his. Are you on your walking treadmill?
I am. I'm on a treadmill.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. Good.
My body's a
we
temple,
also-
Jonathan. You know that.
Yeah. We also have Sheila Sheila Ware, our Director of Housing and Community Services, to Jared's right, and then City Attorney Nevin Zimmerman is over here beside Sean. So, so tonight, we really want to talk about kind of how y'all as a commission want to move forward. Would love to get kind of a sense of where each of y'all's coming from, and our goal would be to put something either on the April 14th commission meeting or the April 28th commission meeting to really to formalize a process for us to move forward. The good news is that the PRAC, the Park kind of advisory committee, evaluating all of our parks and everything, they have wrapped up their work, and the draft report from that is with our Parks and Rec department right now, and so Mr. Myrle and Mr. Jones are kind of going through that, and our goal is to present that at the April 14th City Commission meeting. And so it might be fitting to have the policy addressed maybe more broadly, either at that meeting following that item or at the second meeting in April. But in our conversations with each of the elected officials of the board, there really is a lot of different opinions and how we approach that. And what I've shared with each of you individually, and I know that staff agrees, is our recommendation, again, ultimately y'all's decision, and we'll follow whatever direction the board gives, but our recommendation is to maintain flexibility on behalf of the city commission and senior staff on these parcels as we move forward. You look at different options and kind of what comes in. There are some options that will come to staff and we'll see them and we'll be like, what, this makes a lot of sense. And we believe it's part of what we want to do as a city moving forward. And likewise, each of the commissioners or even the mayor, someone may mention something to y'all about a piece of property that they know that the city owns. In our conversations from strategic planning and or just kind of what each of the commissioners may want or sense the need for in their specific ward. Based on their knowledge of the ward, their conversations with the different communities and the different businesses inside of that ward, what is best served. So I know we've circulated the current outstanding unsolicited proposals. I had Sean and his team go back several years, some of which, or I would say many of which, predated me as city manager, and put those in front of y'all. And I know there's a lot of legal questions when it comes to, selling a piece of property that was purchased with housing funds, and then there's CRA funds and how all that works out. But, we'd really love to, I think what our goal is we want to try to come up with a very systematic way to address these, but knowing that, a lot of these parcels around the city are all very different. So there's not going to be a one size fits all for these properties. Some of them are inside of residential neighborhoods. And so, there's not really a lot you can do with that other than build another residential home. And so maybe those, in a very similar fashion to the way we moved the one over on West 10th Court, just west of Lake Caroline, probably makes the most sense, utilizing one of the real estate companies that, the three of which y'all have approved us to use, and just rotate through those alphabetically. I think some of the more difficult, or challenging conversations about some of the bigger pieces of property, such as, and the mayor and I spoke earlier today about the old federal courthouse site on Business 98, that's waterfront property. My question is, why does the city still own that piece of property? I don't know that that its highest and best use is served maintaining with the city of Panama City. So we did have that appraised probably a year and a half ago at the direction of the commission. We know what it's worth. So could we kind of come up with some ideas of what we might want to see there and find a way to incentivize that and go out to bid? And I think there's lots of different parcels around the city, many of which y'all have firsthand knowledge of, especially the commissioners within their own wards, and how we move that forward. So I think what we're looking for tonight, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, is kind of an opportunity to have a conversation and try to put forward what each of you would like to see, and how we move forward so that staff can take that feedback and try to put forward some type of plan. One of your colleagues, Commissioner Hughes, presented something a couple of months ago, which was a very systematic approach for all the properties. And I think he'll be joining us momentarily. I don't know if that's the way that we want to go, or if there's kind of a hybrid blend depending on the zoning or anything like that. So I think that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to get some feedback. We're looking to answer, some of y'all's questions. We want to make sure that y'all have as much of the information that you may need. We do have a list of that, of all the current city properties. We've circulated that. We're happy to circulate it again, showing what we owned and or what we own rather, and then how it was purchased, because again that is a factor as well. So those are just some of my thoughts, and I've had this conversation with y'all each individually, one-on-one, with other senior staff and Mr. Zimmerman and Ms. Waldron as part of that conversation. But I think given the trial that we had with selling this one parcel, and the fact that y'all through the commission process and going out for RFP, we now have some real estate firms that are in our kind of continuing professional services that we have at our disposal, as you all see fit for us to use. That's another tool that we didn't have several months ago. And so, I'd love for us to kind of have this conversation now, collectively and collaboratively, kind of knowing everything that we know now, in moving forward. And I would say, there have been some thoughts by y'all shared individually that, that any solicited offer over the last X number of years should be considered. And then others have felt that, maybe we should only go back, 2 years or 1 year or something. So, again, I don't believe that's necessarily a staff decision. We want to make sure that we execute what y'all want us to do in moving forward with this. Again, I do believe maintaining flexibility and keeping as many tools in our toolbox as we desire as a staff and as a commission is wise. But again, want to get this feedback from y'all so we can start moving this forward and disposing of the many parcels that I think all of us agree are excessive in a lot of ways that the city has kind of stored up over the last 10 to 20 years. So, Mr. Mayor, we'll start with you and then go to Commissioner Lucas.
Yes. I think there's a number of different approaches that we could have. I think first we should reach out to everyone who has sent us an unsolicited offer and see if they're still interested. Another approach would be, or an additional approach that I'd recommend would be looking at this really big problem and making it into a small. Like, I think the residential lots have a clear, it can only really be residential. So, and then it's, do we sell them? Do we put them into a land trust, or do we work with Habitat for Humanity or some other organization? Those are a couple different options there. And then I want to ensure that any parcel that's more than a single family home, especially potentially a mixed use project, is the highest and best use of the project, meaning what spurs on ripple effects of more investment, not disinvestment. So what are things that we need in those areas of town where we don't go, great, we sold. I mean, if we were in singularity, if we had one piece of property as a family, we're now called a family, and we have one piece of property and it's our inheritance, we want to sell it for as much money as we can get. We don't care about anything else but as much money as we can get, but we're not. This is a very symbiotic use of properties across our town. And so I want to ensure that these larger properties, for me, it's less about the dollar of the sell, more of what can spur on more investment in the town. And those larger ones might need a neighborhood evolution, a revolution. I can never remember which one it is. Neighborhood, whatever the group is that we're using in St. Andrews, to create a development that's appropriate for the neighborhood, that pushes land development code, encourages density and all the things. And so those are sort of my frames of reference as I'm interested in a land trust if it's feasible, if it makes sense for this number of parcels. I'm interested in working with Habitat, and I'm interested in selling properties at the same time. So those are my lenses.
So if I'm hearing yours would be investment over profit. Is that fair?
That's fair. Yeah. Even encouraging these single family lots, we should be the ones that have ADU abilities. We should be strongly encouraging ADUs. That sets a new precedence. We humans just copy each other. We only know what we know. And as soon as a new product comes online, people start going, "Oh, I didn't even know I could do that." And so you start setting a new precedence in neighborhoods and they start rising to it because we don't know what we can have until we start seeing it. And so I agree. Yes.
Yeah. Commissioner Lucas, your hand's up, ma'am. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? Um,
Great.
I think we need to have a systematic approach. I agree with the direction we're moving in to create such. And with that in mind, we had a process we did not follow for unsolicited proposals. And so I'm of the opinion that if the proposal has been hanging out there 2, 3 years, that it's null and void. We haven't responded. And if there are any proposals that are inside the current process until we change it, we honor those and ask, where they are, and then create a process that everyone can follow, and it won't be deemed, in my view, it won't be deemed unfair. And we messed up. We did not respond in the time that our process said we should. So let's start the process there. It's important to me that we continue the city's commitment to affordable housing as we have had. It is a responsibility that we have, and in looking at affordable housing, when we look at the market and what the market is missing, it's many of those folks who are not able to afford the average rent and the average house. And many of them are our employees. If we look at who all the city employs and their salaries and what their housing situation. So when we're making these decisions, we're also affecting the, excuse me, the employees for the city as well as our residents ward by ward. And in looking at the 110, I asked that we look at parcels in Census Tract 16, which we know is our lowest socioeconomic census tract, not just in Panama City, but in the county. It's important that we do affordable housing, particularly in that census tract, I think, and others where we have a high instance of low socioeconomic citizens. And again, this is not giving away anything. And it's not about, I think it's not merely about how hard you work, because when we look at the whole pie, there are some folk who are on that wheel, and they're never gonna get off. And so in those in Census Tract 16, we have the historical land values baked in, and those issues that occurred years ago, the residuals of that, and to take those parcels through the market with our realtors, really I think is missing the market of affordable housing that we have. And so yes, we're looking at working with, or we're talking today about working with Habitat, other builders, putting out an RFP, and I think that's what's important for us, to decide what it is that we want and follow the public process of putting out the RFP and creating those opportunities. So that's my initial thoughts on where we are, but particularly looking at those areas that are low socioeconomic areas and making sure that we don't put them on the market and they price out everyday working folk who are just trying to make a living like we all are.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. So if I can summarize, and I just want to clarify. So we really don't have a formal process. We kind of have an informal process where most of the time when we get something, we bring it to you guys and say, "Hey, what we got? What do y'all want us to do?" Your belief is we should formalize that and kind of make that the SOP for everything that we receive. And
And,
so, did I hear you correctly, ma'am?
and that we have some SOPs that required a time frame to reply to unsolicited proposals. And it's my understanding we haven't been following that.
Correct. And then the only question is, I would say, what if we, and I think I think we all would agree on that. That I mean, I think anything we receive that we'll bring it to you guys and try to be more consistent with that as we formalize that part of the process. But then the question is, and again, I use the example of the old site that was procured for the potential location of the federal courthouse on Business 98, right there at Harmon Avenue in Business 98, kind of that south east corner. In addition to those 11 lots we own down Harmon Avenue, if staff, just be similar, maybe we're the ones initiating the unsolicited, proposal or idea internally as staff. We bring that to you guys. Hey, we would like to, sell this and put together an RFP to promote, A, B, or C, and then maybe there's DEF that y'all add as the commission. We go out to that. Would that be something that would kind of be the logical step, ma'am, for other parcels that we as staff feel, or maybe as some of you as the commissioners and mayor feel we should get rid of, that we kind of do the same thing, but it'd be okay to be initiated by us?
I think the parcel itself dictates what we might envision there. And if I'm not mistaken, that property particularly was part of a cultural heritage district that was done many years ago. So there's been a vision and a thought, if you will, about turning that into a area that has, takes advantage of the water with cafes and entertainment kind of place. But yeah, there are some parcels that lend themselves to, the city kind of saying, hey, this is what we'd like to see here because this is what the city needs. And I think those conversations, that kind of a parcel, 11 parcels together on waterfront, would dictate something like that. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. All right, Commissioner Granger.
Yeah, thank you.
I hate the way it always moves them around.
Yeah, I support SOPs. I think we should have a basic way of that we handle this and any future ones. I think staff would appreciate that as well as the public, because then it would be public knowledge as to how to move forward with these things. I think what we're going to wind up doing is a combination of the ideas that are presented here tonight. For example, Alan mentioned Habitat for Humanity earlier. Great organization, but their bandwidth is only so much, right? And so we can't necessarily just partner with them on every single property that we have that's residential and be done with it, and still move these properties at the pace I think at which we're going to want to move them. So while I think that is a great idea to partner with them on certain properties that we do have, I think we're going to have to figure out other ways as well, with our housing department, to build houses on these properties, maybe infill. Maybe if there's enough parcels together, then it could be sold to a developer that'd be willing to put in townhomes or something of that nature. That would be, affordable housing. But the idea being that it goes to folks for sale, not for rent. So that way there's home ownership involved here. At the end of the line, there's home ownership involved here is my goal, right? That's where I think we're all in agreement there, is we want people to own these properties and own these homes rather than it turn into a rental type situation. That's really all I had. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Street.
Yeah, so I'm pretty aggressive on this, so don't be shocked by what I say. Some of it you've heard me say before. I do think that if we've got this list, I think we should ask if they're still interested. at least making contact. My view on that is it's kind of the same way as water bills. If we drop the ball, then we should at least acknowledge that with contact. And the reality is most have probably already moved on. But I think we should at least ask as an example of being a good partner and also communicating and sending the message, hey, we're open for business and we want to see things move forward. So second thing is a lot of these parcels are locked up in the infill program. I think one of the things, and keep in mind, I was somebody that voted for that program, but what I've learned from it is really until Horizon Park is filled up and we've completely built that out, I don't know why we're locking up, another 30, 40 properties into a program when we built a specific neighborhood that was made to be able to do that. So I would be in favor of removing all the properties besides Horizon Park outside of the infill program, just so that we can expedite the process of seeing activity. And specifically, I think we can unlock some incentivization to actually building affordable housing with the private market. Next one is, some of these properties are rental houses. I think I've made it pretty clear. I think we should either dispose or involve Panama City Housing Authority in managing of rental properties. Nothing has changed my mind on that one. I think that, there's probably other organizations that are better equipped for handling rentals, whether that be ARC, whether that be Anchorage, whether that be Panama City Housing Authority, whoever it is, doesn't really matter as much to me as that we streamline and get focused on the core things so we can be a little bit more productive in what we can offer. A couple of these things are more what I've seen other cities do. So on vacant lots, we really should have Michael and his team maximize residential lot splits. Some of these lots are larger than what our minimum lot size is, and we could increase our inventory. Why is that important? Because it reduces the amount of cost it took to acquire that lot, which means we can either give it away or we could ask for just the reimbursement of a split. So if we paid $5,000 for a lot, but we can split it 3 times, well, guess what? Now we just reduced the cost of building, substantially by thousands of dollars each house just by going through the administrative process of doing a lot split, just like how any other private developer does for residential lots. And I mean, I think if somebody's willing to build within a certain price point of affordability, I am open to just giving it away. It takes it off of our rolls as far as maintenance, and it gets it into the hand and actually somebody that can build and construct a house that somebody can afford. And we just put an exclusion on it that says it can't be for a rental. I think that's personally a really great way of kind of helping the private market deliver more cheap and efficient housing. The other one was anything that's mixed use, commercial, or connected to a parcel that has that zoning. I think those should be handled one-on-one with either neighborhood evolution or some other process. There's so much flexibility of what could be with commercial, mixed use, or the potential of rezoning a piece of property to match that zoning if it's connected to one of those areas. We could probably do some really cool stuff, and some really cool things could happen, specifically in some of our historic neighborhoods. Maybe we get some additional density. Maybe we get some things like that that might create more community kind of processes. Understand that, like, hey, anything that we bought with housing, we have to reimburse the fund. So all of these things are kind of like trying to like figure out, okay, how do we reimburse either CRA or housing so that we can see these things kind of move more quicker than what they have. And then the last one was anything over 5 acres. I think that should be a one-on-one process too, with Neighborhood Evolution or somebody else. We've got a 24-acre parcel over on Sherman Avenue. For all I know, that needs to be a sports park. For all I know, it needs to be, something else. I would love to see us just, activate it to something that makes the most sense. But it's so big. I don't know that just entertaining anything is what we want to do. We probably want to be more intentional. So those are just my thoughts.
All right. Commissioner Lucas, your hand is back up, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Street, share with me your reasoning behind Horizon Park we should stick with, but not so much with the other properties that were bought for the infill housing program, because this is a policy shift. And so I want to understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, so Horizon Park, it's a great little mini development that the city kind of took on. We put in all the infrastructure, we put in the roads. We've got this kind of its own little neighborhood that's over there. A lot of these other lots, what I'm watching is they're just kind of sitting there. There's not a ton of movement, and they're just in this inventory bank for us. I want to just say, hey, don't do that program. That's not what I think is the best thing. But I think by just focusing it in one area, not only will Horizon Park get built out for faster, but we'll be able to entertain other options on these other parcels that we can't now because they're locked up in a program. And we don't know whether they're going to built in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years. We don't know. And so I'd rather see some more activity than what we're seeing. Because I think it's like 30 or 40 lots that are in that bank, whereas, we build like maybe 2 to 3 a year. So that's a long time that it's going to take of those vacant parcels.
So there's a total of there's a total of 28 lots and 12 are still open, just for the record. 28 total, 12 open.
And Jonathan, how many of those have gone through the lot split process?
They were already, the subdivision was all the developer that had this. We did not put in the roads or the infrastructure. That was put in by the developer who
Okay,
owned
cool.
it previously. And the lots were already platted. So we're not changing anything on that. Most of them
How
are
big are they?
30,
Gotcha.
35-foot lots.
Okay, so those are probably already at the right size. But that's
Yes,
12
yes.
lots. So
Right, yeah, we can't make them any smaller.
0.072.
Yeah. Looks like they're around a third of an acre each, sir.
okay.
0.069.
So I mean,
Yeah.
so
Some are a
what
little
I'm
bit
saying
bigger.
is like just with Horizon Park, you've got 3 to 4 years worth of inventory for that program.
Yeah.
Well, that's at the current pace. Mrs. Ware, is it possible to speed up the process?
With all the lots that we have, whenever a client comes through the program, we offer them everything that's on our list. So they have the option, but here again, the client has to want to live in that specific area. So, when you're given an option and, as you know, with, we can't make them go to that specific location and say that could we incentivize it some more? Yes, we could try that and see if that would make it more attractive. But we have to have the funding to be able to do that also.
I think my solution, and I don't want to sound like if you
Just
take
say
all the other ones off the table, then you have to pick Horizon Park. If you're going to follow through our program, and essentially you're getting interest-free building, you've got a secured loan. Just these two that are on our agenda for tomorrow is going to tie up, I think, $600,000 in housing dollars for
No,
however
it
long
won't
it
tie
takes
up
to
any
finish
money
them.
in housing dollars. It's only going to tie up the down payment and closing cost assistance that the client has already been qualified for. The 275 that the builder, he would be borrowing that money to build that home. We're not tying up any fund other than the down payment and closing costs that the client has been approved for.
Sheila, what I guess Nevin talked to me yesterday and when we met, and aren't we on the hook to purchase that if they don't close?
We are if the buyer doesn't close and we cannot find an alternate buyer, what the builders needed to be involved in this program was the assurance that the city would buy the house under the same terms that the buyer was going to buy the house. So
So
we're
in
like the
essence,
third party beneficiary. And then that way they took that to the bank if they needed to, and they could use it as collateral.
so the city is obligated to $600,000 in those houses.
Yeah, if those things occurred, yes.
Yes. Okay.
So I think it's fair to say that we've been on the obligation for the, what, 29 or 30 that we've already done? Has that been a problem?
31. No,
31.
we
Has
have
that
not
been a
had
problem?
one that has not closed. The buyer is already pre-approved, and yes, things can change at a moment's notice. But the builder also has the option of trying to bring a buyer to the table. But the thing is, the person has to qualify for the program.
Sheila,
And
isn't this I don't remember any being this high of construction amount.
well,
Is this the most
these
expensive
particular
one we've
clients,
done?
yeah, we can go up to 300,000. 275 we have is the sales price for these particular properties. The lots we have 30,000 in these lots, and these clients do qualify for the 275. And you know, when we have lots that cost more, it's harder to get an applicant to qualify for it.
Yeah, I think Janice, what I was just trying to, yes, we've done quite a few, but they've been much cheaper than these two that are here. And so, I mean, I don't know if that increases the risk or lowers the risk. I have no idea. But if I would assume it would be the housing program that has to purchase them if they don't close, or is it general fund?
It would be the housing program. I wouldn't think the general
Okay.
fund would absorb that.
Okay. But I mean, I think the point that I was just trying to make really was less about the two as much as it is about, hey, we've got this giant inventory of houses that we're tying up into this program, or this lots that are in this program, when we've got 12 lots over at Horizon that are ready to go tomorrow. So anyway.
And that's a fair point, Commissioner Street. Perhaps we do need to incentivize them, promote them, get them on the market. And, well, they're on the market, but, get the folk in through the program. One of the things that's happened, though, that for our housing department is when we asked departments to cut employees, they did. And so the manpower or people power that they have to be able to work faster, has been cut back. That housing department now is less than 1% of our entire general fund, our entire city budget. So perhaps looking at ways to make that what we have work more efficiently, because there's a segment of the market that in an urban area, which the city of Panama City is, that isn't being served by the greater market. And we already know from the Florida Housing Coalition, we are woefully behind in housing units for the everyday working people. And again, I say many of whom are city employees.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Granger, anything else?
Not for me.
No, I mean, it turned into a little bit of a housing topic, but we're talking about properties. I think there are much more complicated lots. So I would say approaching the simplest, easiest ones first and getting some momentum going makes the most sense for me. Take
Yeah,
big
so
problems and make them into small problems.
Yeah. So we've already reached out. Sean's already reached out to Nevo to kind of get an update on where they are. We did have a pre-meeting, and we'll figure out where they are with those two parcels in St. Andrews at 13th and Beck. And from what I'm hearing, we're going to go ahead and we will. I'll have Sean, Self, the logistics, they're the ones to kind of keep that master dose. We'll reach out to all the unsolicited offers and just kind of see if they still have an interest. I think I do agree with Commissioner Street that a lot of them, probably not all of them, but a lot of them probably have moved on. But I think giving them that chance to tell us that they've moved on is wise, so that we have the most accurate and up-to-date information. And I don't think we were talking about a ton. Roughly how many are we talking about, Sean? Like couple of pages worth.
Yeah.
So
Blown up my eye.
yeah, so maybe it looks like maybe 20, 25. So we're not talking about hundreds of unsolicited offers. It looks like 20 to 25,
Yeah,
maybe
but
30 at the absolute most.
one of them is asking for, how many, 13, 15, I don't know, a large number in one area of the community, you know? And I think that, when we start talking about we want to determine what we want to see there, entertaining that proposal, we're being driven by what that potential developer would like to see versus what we as a city determine what we'd like to see with those parcels.
Yeah,
Right.
and adding that, when I mentioned habitat, I don't think this is the properties and what we own is not going to be fixed or done in a year. It'll be multiple years, and so maybe Habitat says, "Oh my gosh, we want 2, not 40, and we want 2 more next year." That kind of approach. So I think I'm not proposing some massive slash and all the properties are magically disposed of in 6 weeks. That's not my expectation either.
Right.
And, to your point, Alan, Habitat has been a great affordable housing developer for the city of Panama City.
Yeah.
And they're in Callaway now because we weren't at the time, willing to entertain the kind of project that they're building over in Callaway. So certainly I think there's room for all of that. It's as you guys know, because you've done more deals than I, it's how you structure the deal, and the affordable housing is not a market rate deal. And so it's something that we need to keep at the forefront and uphold the intention for which these properties were purchased with HUD funding. So
Yeah. Adding land trusts are super interesting. I don't know how complicated they are, but land trusts keep people from flipping houses that we've done. Like, what you don't want is someone who gets a great incentive from us and they're like, "Thanks, I just made $100,000 off your incentive." And the houses that Habitat builds are way nicer than my first house. They're way nicer, and so they do a great product. And so I don't know what they have there, what they can handle either. But I'm interested in talking to them further.
Mr. Mayor, I believe it was you that connected us with the city of Pensacola's housing program, and they really, really love the land trust piece. What they had to do was educate their clientele on, hey, you still own the house, but it's not fee simple title, and it was pretty interesting thought process there. But they've had great success with it in Pensacola.
And there might be some sort of scale where land trust only makes sense if you have 500 lots or something. I don't know the costs of a land trust to maintain it, logistically and organizationally, or what it costs to spin one up. And so we might not hit the scales of economy for it to make sense, but I have not done that research either. But you're correct that Pensacola's their housing director actually came from Habitat. And she also said they manage their own. Like Panama City Housing Authority is basically rolled into the city. That's one of their mechanisms to grow that department to do more. We don't have that ability with ours. So everyone's department's a little different in different cities. So
Tallahassee is another city that has a community land trust and has had it now for more than a decade, if not 2. And it's a successful program. Our the project that has the rental housing, that land, I think, would be ideal for putting into a community land trust. And that is an option that could be on the table to move us out of the rental through the community land trust option.
Land trust as well, and I have not done days and days of work, but some initial research, they often get a higher level of philanthropic donations from people who pass away because it doesn't feel like you're donating to the city. You're donating to something much larger and a flywheel of investment. So,
Indeed, it's a separate organization.
Yeah.
So,
Commissioner Street, your hand's up, sir.
a couple of things to piggyback on the land trust. There's a Florida land trust that you can just partner with, so you don't have to recreate your own. You can kind of piggyback off of theirs, and they do stuff around the state with a lot of municipalities in a similar situation. Maybe we're not big enough to to do it ourselves, but at the same time, we feel like it's the best mechanism. So that one, that could be an option to take a look at. I think the biggest thing that I'm just trying to accomplish is, you know, there's been a lot of people that have come and they've tried to engage with the city, specifically in the affordable housing arena. And through, hey, well, it was bought with this funds, or hey, it's in this program, or hey, no, we haven't quite decided what we want to do with that. It kind of leads into this like quagmire of indecision that all of a sudden, months and days go by. I think for me, I just want to see us just push forward and kind of take the restrictions off of these. Like we have a saying in an organization that I work with is take the complexity on your side of the table. Don't put it on the side of the person that's actually doing the service for you or you're trying to encourage to be a part. And I kind of look that on the development. If we want people to build affordable housing, and by that I'll define it, under $250,000 at minimum, then we've got to take the complexity that's on our side of the table and try to reduce the cost as much as we can. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity. We've got a ton of lots. I've been here 5 years and I've been staring at some of them for 5 years, and we've had people that have tried to engage. And I'm not saying that 13 lots or whichever one of those things are the ones we should do, as much as it is, this is not a problem that government by itself is going to solve. We have to enable private industry to do what they do best, which is build. I mean, we're good at building roads, sewer and water. So there's others that are better at building housing than we are.
So I would ask us to look at the quality of the housing that we've built, look at, do a study of what we have done, and look at how we can do that better. Because again, private market is not attending to the affordable housing in the way that's needed. We know we need hundreds of units, thousands really, when you include the rental properties. And we have a responsibility as government, because we are not private market, and we're not competing with the private market in affordable housing because they're not there. That's not the market they're going after. And when we look at what other cities are doing, our neighbors, Pensacola, Tallahassee, our model city up in, Greenville? Greenville?
Greenville. It's
Yes.
Greenville, correct, ma'am.
All right. They've been innovative and they've done some things. And so in the past, other people who held these seats that we now hold made decisions or didn't. But we're the policymakers now that will set the direction. And I think it's important for us to be, one, forthcoming, with where we are, and then give clear direction as a unit to our staff so that they can go forward.
All right. Any other feedback or input?
Jonathan, do
Slavo?
you need anything? Can we get this list with what it's zoned to? And maybe I sent you guys the
Is that on
criteria
there?
that I talked
I
about. If
have
it's next
On
to,
the affordable housing list, I have it broken down for the lots that have been designated for affordable
When
housing.
you're talking about the property list, he has the unsolicited proposal.
Oh,
Are you talking, which one are you
yeah.
asking for, Commissioner Street?
yeah,
Unsolicited
I think,
proposals or the parcels?
so the parcels, that list that we got, I guess why it centered around a housing, the only lots that I saw were the ones from housing. Do we have other lots that are not on that list?
We do. The master list does have it. Yeah, he just got kind of the summary page. It shows roughly 30 unsolicited proposals, but the parcel, the master parcel list does show it. So we have that. And as far as the unsolicited proposals, we'll reach out to all of them, and get them. We'll definitely work on getting that ASAP, and then we'll put those forward as quick as possible, and then we'll start coming up with a plan on moving at least maybe initially the non-housing ones, and then we have our follow-up housing workshop, I think, on April 13th,
Yes.
and Habitat for Humanity has already committed to that, excitedly. I believe that Angela and the chairman, Aaron Rich, will both be there, and so we can we could probably even get some ideas from, from some of our partners in the community as well as to how to move these forward. I do know, I guess, one of the things is I know some of the ideas that we get are going to be, I don't want to say crazy, but like, probably not very realistic, like, hey, I'll give me 30 or 40 lots for free and then I'll build on them and then I'll sell them for a profit. Like, I feel like I can probably, as city manager, say, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. But maybe a smaller scale, maybe 5 to 7 lots, and then show, within the scope of our existing criterion programs, how we could potentially move that forward. So I do agree. I want to have a balance between, both in spurring investment, really the three kind of spurring investment, providing affordable or attainable housing, but also making a profit on some of these very valuable lots, to catch back some of the expenses that the city has spent over the years. Also mindful though that we'll put them back, hopefully, in a lot of these back on the tax rolls, generating income for the city to provide our necessary functions. So, any other comments? We've got a little bit of time left if there's a second option. Yes, ma'am, Commissioner Lucas.
So one of the reports I asked for was how many parcels are in that the city owns in Census Tract 16. And so I received raw data. And I think rather than giving us raw data, there'd be some analysis and options that be done, and not necessarily, that we go and hire somebody. Our staff can do
it's
what we're all
13.
doing. I'm sorry?
It's 13. Yes, ma'am. 13. We already have that information.
Okay. And so the rest of the properties then in Census Tract 16 are not housing properties purchased by housing?
No.
Okay, because what I got was a list of 110.
I think that
So-
might be all properties.
I'm sorry?
I think that might be all properties.
Okay,
We'll get clarity on that if that's all properties or all properties inside Census Tract 16.
yeah, because that was a long list, and I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
We have now one thing to keep in mind too, just for y'all's, some of y'all may know this and some of you may not, and for the public's benefit as well. Keep in mind all of our lift stations are listed as properties of the city. It's not just our parks, it's not just our fire stations and city hall. It's also, like 140 lift stations, because we're very flat here in Florida. So it takes a lot of lift stations to move our wastewater either to Millville or to the San Andreas wastewater treatment plant. And so those are included there as well. So you may see 200 or 300 parcels, but a large chunk of those are not just empty parcels that we're just sitting on.
So
So
the other
this-
part of that, oh, sorry, ma'am, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this says new housing projects, Census Tract 16.
Yeah, that would be Sheila's.
Yeah.
We'll get clarity on that, ma'am, in the next 24 to 36 hours.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, your hand's up, sir.
Yeah, just adding to the lift station stuff. So there might be opportunities where there's a piece of property that we're only utilizing a corner of that we might be able to still have an easement to. But those would, to me, would be a much more complicated parcel that probably should be a lower priority.
Okay. Yeah.
But at some point, we might explore those options of going, oh my gosh, we don't need this much land. We only need the ditch access.
And Mr. Mayor, to that point, a lot of those properties are storm ponds or stormwater facilities, or, there's 100 reasons why we may have a piece of property.
Yeah, so then I'd like to ask for a clean list. What are we talking about? That's available, that's vacant, that we want to figure out what to do with. That's not a lift station or a park
Yeah.
or any other pre-designated use. That's the information we need.
Yeah. Let me clarify why I even went there. So yes, that is all that we've given you. But what I'm saying is I've heard from some of y'all over the years, especially when y'all were first on the commission, and I hear it from the public. The city owns 350 pieces of property, what I'm trying to do is help educate and inform the public that, a large chunk of those are lift stations, stormwater ponds, and not just like empty lots. So yeah, the what we've provided y'all are truly those empty lots that potentially can be. We didn't exclude that, but again, people go to the property appraiser's website and they pull in, City of Panama City, and they think that we're sitting on hundreds of pieces of property, and that doesn't really paint the full picture. That was the reason I shared that particular piece of information, Commissioner Lucas. So, Commissioner Street.
Yeah, so I appreciate the fact the list is a good and accurate one that we're working with. What I would say is one thing with the neighborhood evolution stuff that I've seen with just that one parcel, which is different. I mean, we've tried this 3 times. So this is the 3rd time on this one piece of parcel. And the difference in what they're providing versus what we've had before is someone that thinks through a development lens and kind of cleans the hair off the I don't know what the saying is, hair off the pig, whatever.
Hair off the lollipop, maybe.
So what's been advantage of that? We've looked at flood zones. We've looked at, okay, how do we change the setback difference that maybe this becomes like a little pocket park so that we can get the buildings out of the flood zone. Like they think through the lens of how do we break this down to the smallest chunk that a private investor could come in and do. And that is a different approach than anything that we've done before. And so I'm very excited and interested to see how this might apply as we look specifically to the commercial and mixed use stuff. The single family homes, I think are, more or less just get them down to the smallest lot so that we have the biggest amount of inventory and then incentivize the price point that you want. And I think that's a way to kind of see that move forward. Partner with Habitat, partner with whoever. Habitat can build a house for $150,000. No one else I've seen has been able to do that. So we need to figure out how do we get more things to them to build $150,000 homes because they're the only ones that are doing it. I think that's just if we can get the list down to the zoning categories of what is a single family lot versus what is a mixed use or potential for other things, that would be helpful for me.
Okay.
And the infill program has allowed us to be able to build for 150 and less, having that property. One thing that I would suggest, if you all would entertain with the housing department, one thing that would help us is the larger parcels that housing has in their inventory. If we could look at disposing of those first.
How many of the parcels that your department kind of secures right now would you estimate or would you describe that are the big parcels in your opinion?
We have about 4.
About 4, and those are those a half an acre or more, or 1 acre or more?
1 acre or more.
So 4 lots, 1 acre or more. Okay. Is there any, can I ask, is there any objection, Mr. Zimmerman, or is that? No? Okay.
Well, you've got a direction. They're not going to vote.
No, yeah.
Can we have those parcels highlighted and sent to us?
Yes.
Yep. I would like
we'll
that.
have that. We'll have that tomorrow morning to you. Those 4 specific parcels, sir. All right. Any other comments about the mini lots and all of that? All right. So our next virtual workshop for the commission is going to be Monday, April 6th. And I've asked Police Chief Mark Smith and Deputy Police Chief Chris Shaw to join us to kind of give a report on spring break and how that has gone during the month of March. And of course, we still have about another week ahead of us. And kind of, by that point, they'll have some data and some feedback, and we'll share that and then answer any questions that you all may have. We have a little bit of time left. Is there anything, off the hip that you guys would like to shoot from? All right. Well, I'm shocked. So, well, we have our commission meeting tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. at the County Government Center, and look forward to seeing y'all there. Have a good evening, Mayor, Commissioners.
Take care, everybody.
All right.